Hi, how are you? Thanks for being here. So my background is film and television. I have a technology company, a digital signage technology company in the States called MediaTile. I founded that company, and I also founded Fifth Screen. I wrote a book called Unleashing the Power of Digital Signage, which is all about content strategies for the fifth screen. And why I call it the fifth screen is because if you look at the other media screens that are out there, you'll see that that this screen is different than any other screen. And so as we really just kind of ponder this new digital landscape that we're in the media that is really upon us, it's quite amazing. The transfer of power into the hands of the consumer in this new digital age is going to really allow us to actually buy anything, anytime, anywhere because of our pocket screen or our digital screen, and we'll be able to transfer content easily between those screens. So let's talk about the evolution of media a little bit. From the days of printing, which are all now even digital printing, digital assets that make up that printing for not too many of us. How many people actually read a newspaper today? Still, every day, daily, weekly? Yeah, it's amazing how quickly that printing is being replaced digitally, even with Kindles, etc., things like that. And there he has one too, yeah. Next, let's look at screen one and talk about the kind of companies that were created around these screens and the amount of business that's created around each screen. MGM, Columbia, Universal. And we go to screen two, and we see that I mean, that's television. Amazing thing about television is that RCA once was the most powerful corporation in the world. It's now a brand in China. And if you look further into it, Comcast just bought NBC, which was and Universal, which was both the first screen and then even the television network. If we look at the next screen, we have mega companies that were centered around the internet and PC, Apple, Google, Amazon. It's now AOL, Time Warner, from a press to a digital. And screen four, our mobile screen. Again, mega companies that are created around these digital devices. And last, the digital out of home, or digital signage. I call it the fifth screen. This is the first time in history, actually, that we have a match of media that equals what the consumer expects. When we're watching television, the consumer is expecting entertainment, and we're constantly interrupting it with advertising. Whereas digital signage, people are actually in the marketplace with a mindset that says, I'm shopping, I'm on the go, I'm in a doctor's office, I have some wait time, but it's all relevant, very relevant content on these screens. And so it's the first time that we really have a medium that matches the consumer's expectations. And I think it's interesting, a lot of people think, that consumers think this media is for them, but really, it is about the advertising. And we start looking for the types of digital assets that you can create for this type of industry and cross-platform. There's some specific things that you can do to really break it down in your company, that you can break it down for production reasons. And in this entire digital landscape, from printing all the way to digital out of home, I think that every asset can be accounted for digitally across that landscape. So let's look at some major trends. This is what it used to be. I used to have TV. I used to go to the store. Or I had a print newspaper ad, and I would go to the store to buy something. Very advertiser inspired, a lot of mind muscle, frequency and repetition going on. So fast forward, this is where we're at today. we have a completely new landscape. And it took us a bit to get there, but it really has been accelerated, of course, in the last maybe 3 or 4 years, more than anything. And with social networks and with e-commerce and m-commerce, but it's not a linear path like it was before. So when you start looking at assets and creating those assets, you have to start thinking about all the different places and all the different touch points that are going to be available to the consumer so you can reach them with your message. So ad spend definitely shifting towards digital. There's no doubt. We've seen increase billions of dollars in the U.S. that are headed into social networks and now with mobile, even more so, of course, with e-commerce. But S-commerce, also the whole social commerce, another fascinating, interesting area. But advertising agencies, because of the economic conditions over the last 2 years, advertising agencies have actually tried more of this new media, and it's caused success in this new media, which has also caused growth in the new media. Because brands are no longer relying upon agencies to make decisions for them, they're pushing their agencies. And I was in one meeting where an agency, large brand, said to the agency, if you don't put us in digital signage, we'll get another agency. So that's the kind of power of media, and brands know that they have to reach people where they're at today. And television is not, and newspaper and print and television is not, as a standard traditional media, is not always the best way to reach your target audience. I think also when you start looking at shopping, that seamless integration between online, mobile, and store, those lines are getting blurred. This is a little bit of an eye chart, but in the US, 79% of shoppers were more likely to do business with stores that had digital assets, online assets, mobile assets, and traditional location-based. So when you start looking at these new technologies that are coming out that we'll have to create content for and manage that content across this digital landscape, there's a number of things that look, and that's, of course, location-based services where you're going to see things that are basically screens that will be linked to the brand, either at the shelf, touch screens, interactions. I think when you start looking at things like augmented reality and just gestural type technologies where I can reach into the screen and interact with it. Social media, obviously, but all these things are designed to create more engagement. And that's what causes a consumer really to become part of your brand, is that engagement and that internalization. So how can you create content to get that engagement and keep it consistent across the platforms? Interesting notion that by 2013, most people in the US are going to be using their mobile phone to access the internet rather than a laptop. Not that far away. I think also when you start looking at the online marketing in the U.S., $250 billion by 2015. That's a ton of money headed towards these new media. And I think that's one other thing too. As you look at the different types of media, you look at the experience in the internet and mobile, etc. At some point, we will have software that will allow us to take this gesturally off the screen, throw it in my pocket, take it home, and throw it on my home screen. That's the kind of vision that's in the industry that will produce this seamless transactions and seamless content between each screen.